Today's podcast is one I actually found buried in the archives, and it was set as private, so it's one you probably couldn't even find if you went searching for it. And it's our first interview with Brennan Marion, who is now the receivers coach at Pitt. Pitt is just tearing it up on offense. He's a big part of that, and it's no surprise that coach has had a successful climb through the ranks. When we talked to him here in his first interview, he was at Howard University, and this was really a fun one. I really enjoyed this one with Coach, and again, no surprise that he's climbed the ranks and is at the FBS level now, helping with a high-performing offense, and I certainly expect to see more from him in the future. So here's one from the archives. You'll really enjoy it. Coach Brennan Marion, now the receivers coach at Pitt.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man.
Coach, let's get into your background a little bit. Let's start with this question. Why did you become a football coach?
Oh, I've always loved the game, and I was blessed to have some great football coaches, and they made it a seamless transition of, when I got done playing to go straight into coaching. I wanted to be just like, some of the great mentors, and, a lot of those guys were, father figures for me.
Coach, what was your track into coaching after you finished your playing days?
Well, I first got in, when I first started coaching, I actually was on injury reserve for the Miami Dolphins, and one of my friends told me, this will really lift your spirits at working with the kids. And I went out and started helping at a high school and really just started off just helping. And then, the head coach asked me, hey, can you, really run that offensive stuff that you guys ran at Tulsa, and you guys were like the best offense ever. And then, I ended up started off as an offense coordinator in high school, and my first year coaching and calling plays and, putting the pass game together and putting the game plan together. So I really didn't know what I was doing at first. I was just kind of running stuff that I'd ran in college, and we ended up being really, really successful that year. So it just kind of worked out.
And how did you get into coaching at the college level then?
Coaching at the college level, actually, when I was a high school head coach, tons of college coaches would come by, and they kept telling me how, what I was doing was really, really good, and they really liked it, my knowledge, my football knowledge, my information that I was giving the kids and what my kids were able to run and do. And, they just kept encouraging me like, man, you should really try college. And, I ended up giving it a shot after I won Coach of the Year in Pennsylvania and went out to Arizona State and, started working with Todd Graham, my old head coach. He was my head coach at the University of Tulsa, and Mike Norvell, who was my receiver coach at Tulsa. He was the offense coordinator there.
Coach, as you transition into being a coach, I'm sure there's a lot of lessons you learned. Looking back on it, what would you say were some key things you learned that impacted your development as a coach?
The biggest thing that I learned, I actually got a chance to have a guy on my team who had autism. And at first, it was really just saying he could be a part of the team. His mom had asked me, could he be on the team? And I was like, yeah, no problem, And I didn't know, obviously I didn't think that he would, play for us or anything like that. He also, one of the things, he was a great kid, and he always lightened the mood. And in meetings, he would, have different outbursts and make the team laugh. And, and the guys started to ask me towards the season, like, if we start blowing teams out, can he play? Coach, will you put him in a game if we blow this team out? And just to, it doesn't matter if a guy's a superstar or, zero ability, that guys love that guy so much that, Eric was his name, that they would blow teams out just so he could get in the game, like just to run down on kickoff, but just be on the field. And that's when I really realized, people only focus on their star players the majority of the time when you're coaching. And, from 1 to 100 is important when you're a coach. And that's one of the lessons that I learned, just how hard guys would work for somebody who obviously didn't have the physical ability to really be a football player at a high level. And they would do everything to make sure he played in the game. And I really respected that and learned a lot from that.
Coach, now at Howard University, you have that opportunity as the offensive coordinator to kind of build that part of a culture into your offensive unit. How do you make sure that, everybody within your team has a role, understands their role, and, how does that build into a culture for you?
I think the biggest thing that, that I would, the advice that I give to young coaches is, first, the guys have to know you and trust you. So, my biggest thing is always telling the guys who I am, what I am, what I'm about, and not only just telling them, but showing them every day who I am and being consistent with them. And then secondly, the biggest thing we do is, I'm going to do everything possible to put them in a position to be successful themselves, So anybody who tries to progress you and gives you love and nurturing and it makes you more aware about life, it is definitely a bonus in your life. So what I'm doing there is, I'm building these guys up. So first I tell them who I am, then I build them up. And then I challenge them to get better. So then the third thing, to create a culture, is just challenging the guys like, are you satisfied with yesterday? Do you want to get better today? Just trying to teach them how to steal an inch and compete every day. And then the fourth thing is, open door policy. I let guys come in, whether it's, I taught kids how to play spades, how to play dominoes, how to play, just like different little aside from football, bowling, service events, because it can't be all about football all the time or guys will just get burnt out. So, just getting to know them with different games and bowling and, community service, just doing different things just to, lighten the mood a little bit and, build a personal relationship with them.
Coach, tell us a little bit about the offense that you've put together at Howard University.
Well, we'll feature, we'll always be up-tempo. I believe in the up-tempo. If a guy can't breathe, he's not going to play good, being the opposing team. So if you practice your tempo every day, I think that it's definitely, trying to create a fifth quarter, run 100 plays a game that puts a lot of stress on the defense. We'll be multiple in formations. We'll try to be multiple, but, we're going to be run-oriented. We want to start the game with the run, and we want to finish the game with the run. And obviously, we're going to try to, take shots down the field. So we're definitely, run more than we pass, type of offense, and we'll get multiple in formation.
Coach, what do you do when a team starts to load the box on you? How do you approach that, being a team that wants to run the football?
I think you have to be able to shift and get to empty formations. I think you have to do things to lighten the box. I think there's a lot of RPO tags and stuff that you can add on to your runs that'll make you successful. Simple, easy read for the quarterback to get the ball out based off of, an extra guy, an extra hat. So you just have to know your personnel. And I always say there's 4 guys that are on the defense, 3 to 4 guys that are to stop the pass. The rest of the guys are run stoppers. So however the defense lines those guys up, whether it be a boundary safety or an adjuster to the field, guys trying to, add an extra hat to the box, you could do different things to throw off of him.
RPO has really become a big part of the game, especially for those teams who want to focus on the run, yet not always be tied to it, that they can take advantage of the defense. So the RPO becomes a big part of their passing game. What are some of your favorite RPOs that you've installed?
I'd like to just really love about Howard right now. We actually have quarterbacks who can beat you with their legs. So, just getting things on the outside where they're already running one way and they have some options of what they're looking at on the outside. So whether it's that's a bubble or, wheel down the field, something where they're already attacking the perimeter and their eyes are already that way. If they do decide to pull the ball, that there's something out there for them to release the ball if somebody comes to, make the play on them.
What's the run scheme you like to pair with those runs that get out on the edge, those passes?
I think you have to attach something to every run. I mean, you're something attached to all run, whether we're running, power ton or inside zone, outside zone. I think you have to, just like you're multiple in the passing game and formations, you have to be multiple in the run. You can't get stuck, just trying to beat your head off the wall with one run scheme. I know a lot of teams just try to spend one time on one run scheme, and I think that's what's made, guys like Gus and Coach Norvell and, Chad Morris and those guys that are part of the coaching tree that I'm kind of involved with is, we're multiple in our runs. We don't get stuck on one run.
And obviously you're building off what you've learned from those guys. But what would you say if I sat down and listened to you talk about your offense at a clinic? What's something I would find unique to what you guys do?
Our boundary and field stuff, what we do, our formations are definitely, unique, because one thing that, you know, a lot of guys, you say, oh, you're so young, you know, 'cause I'm not 30 yet, you know, so a lot of guys get on me about age. But when you sit down and talk to me, you know, a lot of the guys that will be around me, real football guys, will understand that I'm a student of the game. And I've studied the game all the way back to, you know, 1920s, 1930s, 1940s, 50s, 60s. And so you'll see formations that you might haven't seen in a long time, you know, if you haven't seen in 50, 60 years that will run, you know, with new school principles and stuff. And that's one of the things that will make us unique from other programs.
Talk to us a little bit about some of those formations. I like to study the game that far back to have, you know, books on my shelf by guys like, you know, Newt Rockne and some unknowns. What are some of those formations from a long time ago that you like to implement in your offense today?
You know, I'm really big into the whole far and near study. I mean, I'm really into it to see, like, you know, that was a part of the game from 1960 all the way till like the mid 90s of, you know, having two guys in the backfield and, you know, what type of challenge that presents for the defense to have, you know, an F and an H in the backfield. And, you know, if they can both go on pass routes, they can both run the ball, they can both, you know, be in a protection. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with that. So that's one of the things that, you know, I'm going to try to bring back to football and do this season.
Coach, you ever studied the Notre Dame box formation?
No, I would love to. I would love to, definitely. If you had some write-ups on that or, you know, some video, I would love to look at it and check it out.
Yeah, it's a multiple back formation. Just thinking that maybe if you were studying some of that stuff, I kind of used a modernized form of that where I was using a kind of a Notre Dame box. We would get into it with motion from a receiver, and the misdirection out of it was pretty good, and you ended up with a good surface to run, and you'd be able to counter back the other way with it. Just kind of an old single wing type of formation, but a modernized version of it. So, yeah, definitely something to look into.
Yeah, that stuff's beautiful. Anytime you can get the defense coordinator up late at night, you're doing a good job. The offense coordinator and your guys can, you know, I learned, you know, playing multiple sports, you know, anything that you practice long enough, you become good at it, no matter what the sport is, you know. So if you can get your guys practicing at a high level, they'll execute it in the game at a high level.
Coach, let's talk a little bit about practice and about your teaching methods. I guess even starting with what you do in the classroom. What's your approach to training these guys so that they know what they need to do to execute at a high level on game day?
My biggest thing is, you know, these kids learn so many multiple ways, and, you know, growing up, you know, we had the big attached to you're not smart if you don't learn it this way. You know, if there was only one way you could learn things, you know, my coach would put it up on the old, you know, like projectors, you know, what is that deal where you write with your little Sharpie on the, you know what I'm talking about?
I do, yeah. The right.
Yeah. So, yeah. So what I try to do with guys, and you know, what we've done here is we'll create a visual for them, you know, a video for them. We'll create an audio, you know, to say exactly what we want them to do, and then we'll create also what we do on the board, writing it out, and then we'll also give them some reading material to have as well. So they'll get like 4 different forms of learning, and if they can't learn it that way, you know, then you have more challenges of trying to figure it out of how they're going to learn it before they do it. So we want to try to cut all the thinking out in the classroom, you know, so give them multiple ways to learn in the classroom before they hit the grass. You know, the less thinking they're doing on the grass, the faster that they will play and execute. So, you know, we just try to get multiple forms of learning that'll make the guys successful out on the field.
What are some of the best things you're doing out on the grass in practice?
You know, the biggest thing I tell everybody, and I'll do this to the day I die or the day I'm done coaching, is just the ball security drills. You know, the huge emphasis on doing ball security at the beginning of practice every single day. You know, there's 3 or 4 different stations, and getting to your stations and making sure you take care of the ball, because obviously the game is football. You know, without a ball, there's no game. So, you know, we got to make sure we emphasize taking care of the football every day. And that was one of the things we did great in the spring. I mean, we had 600 some reps of team reps, and we turned the ball over 14 times. that's pretty. That's really, really good. Making sure you take care of the football.
Coach, as we move into a game day and thinking about play calling, some guys think of it more as an art and a feel for it, and some guys think of it more as a science and have their data and analytics throughout coming into a game and then throughout the game that help drive their decisions. How do you make your decisions on game day? What type of way do you do it?
Well, I think you have to break down every scenario and situation. I think there's an analytical approach to it, and I think there's a football guy approach to it. There's guys on the field. I mean, you can't get caught up in the X's and O's. This is what we want to run. There's certain guys you don't want to go near. There's certain guys you want to attack and take advantage of. And I think there's feels of the game. There's certain, there's elements of that you don't control, whether that be weather, stadium, how loud the stadium is, different things like that, that you can't control. So I think you have to look at everything and get something that, I always say, what are you guys comfortable in running? What do you guys really want to execute? What do you guys like? There's certain stuff that you like as a coach, but if the players don't like it, it really doesn't matter because they're the ones playing. So I think there's a lot of different ways you have to go into it. But I think the biggest thing is, being on the same page. So if it's Tuesday in the week or Wednesday in the week, you need to have the game plan ready to roll so you guys are confident and getting some good practices in it going into the game. And I think that's been the most successful way to get the guys to execute. So you have to do a little bit more work. You got to be a grinder in this business. Right after that game is over, you got to be on to the next one, win, lose, or draw. And then you have to really, stay on it and make sure, everybody's on the same page, seeing the right things, and then you get your analytical approach, put that all together. So by the time Tuesday hits, Wednesday hits, Thursday hits, Friday hits, the guys know exactly what they're doing, and that gives them confidence to go in the game and execute.
Coach, a situation that we all want to stay out of is third and long, but it's one that we're going to face a number of times in a game. What's your favorite third and long play?
It depends on the field position. If I have a field position where we can go for it on fourth down, head coach can go for it on fourth down here. Obviously, I'm going to get us in something in fourth and manageable, fourth and under 5, that gives us a chance to, go for it. And then if not, you want to go with your play that the players execute the best, whether that be, a run call or a pass call or a draw or a screen, whatever your best screen is, whatever your best draw is, whatever your best drop back or, quick game passes, there's quick game passes where you'll get the ball to a guy quick. He can make one guy miss. It's based on your personnel of how you do everything. Everything's personnel and everything is, situation of, can I go for it on fourth down? Because I'm a guy who's not afraid to roll the dice and go for it on fourth down if we're in the right territory. It still puts the defense in a good situation.
So if it was a 3rd and 7, let's say open field, coach is not giving you the fourth down this past season, what would that play be for you?
I'd say we either go with a motion misdirection draw or something like that, or we would go with, mesh T-wheel, just trying to get guys, seeing if it's man or zone and, trying to hit that wheel route open or, a mesh concept, hitting one of the underneath guys and him catching the ball at 5 and getting 2 yards himself.
Coach, let's move forward and put the focus back on you for a little while here. Going back to the beginning for you, what's a mistake you made as a young coach, and what did you learn from it?
As a young coach, you have to, I read this about Coach Belichick the other day. It's just, you got to get around like-minded individuals. As a young coach, I thought I could cure all. I was the cure-all for everybody. And, not everybody has a passion, as strong as your passion is as a head coach or even as, working with getting the right guys. That's what I love about college coaching and recruiting. You go and find kids that, have the same passion as you and have the same football acumen and IQ and really want to learn the game and be around the game as you. So, just people would think I was crazy at first when I was a young coach because I just wanted to win so bad and I want to be football all day long every day. And, in certain places, guys are like, Coach, this is too much football or, I don't love football that much. So, just trying to think that I was the cure-all, for everybody and, just being I wouldn't say it was over passionate. Just, passion's my biggest strength and probably my biggest weakness.
Coach, what's the best advice you've received in your coaching career?
The best thing that I learned from Coach Malzahn was just, and we just talked, 2 days ago, gear everything to the guys. It's all about the guys. Set up the game plan for what the guys can do. What the guys can execute at a high level, and let them do their thing. I mean, that's basically, everybody has a role. Identify the guys' roles and put them in those roles.
Looking at some of those guys stepping off the field as players and heading into the coaching profession, thinking that they want to make it long term, what advice would you give to those guys?
First, I would always tell them, you have to put yourself to bed. If you want to be a great coach, it's all about serving others. And a lot of times, when you come from being a player, everybody's pretty much serving you. And you have to really humble yourself. If you come from being a professional player, even a good college player, whatever you come from being, you have to get lost in the service of others. And that's really the first component of how you be a successful coach. And then you have to, not look at it as a player anymore. A lot of guys get out of playing and they still look at it as a player. Well, I could do this. Well, if your guy can't do that, it doesn't really matter what you could do. So you have to really start looking at the game as a whole. One of the things, I played receiver, so I always knew what the quarterback did, the running back did, the receivers did. My biggest thing, my learning curve was learning everything that the offensive line does, making sure I knew protections. And then I had to learn exactly what all the blitzes were on defense. I knew what the coverages were, but I didn't know all the blitzes. So I had to learn the fronts and blitzes and, just learn the whole game, because now you are trying to get other people, to be smart, intelligent football players and to be successful as a coach. You have to put yourself to bed and really, look at it as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice. Coach, how did you learn? What things did you focus on? What were your resources? How did you go about that education for yourself in learning the game and learning the things you didn't know as well?
I was around a lot of great coaches, and the thing that I did, I'm a notebook guy, so I just took notes everywhere I went, every little clinic, everything that I could get my hands on and learn from. Even from a cultural standpoint, every coach that I worked for, I wrote down how the culture of the program was ran. I had little reports on, all that stuff. Just, any little information or little details I could steal. I remember being in the office with Chris Ball, who's, defense coordinator at Memphis now, and just asking him, like, what are the routes you don't want to see? Like, what are the route combinations you don't want to see? Write that down. I mean, every little thing you can think of. Because offensive guys, I tell offensive guys all the time, don't consider yourself like, I'm offense, I only need to learn offensive stuff. If you're going to be good on offense, you need to learn exactly what the defense is doing to be successful on offense. So I spend a lot of time around defensive guys trying to pick their brain and see what they don't want to see from an offensive side of the ball. And then, and that helps, be successful on the offense.
What are some of those biggest things that guys don't want to see from the offense?
They don't want to see tempo. They don't want to see a lot of FSL and formations into the boundary. If it just depends on what type of cover team they are. They don't want to see, throws over the middle, or if you're a cover 4 team, you don't want to see a lot of double post stuff. A lot of guys, if you're successful running power, I mean, you can win a championship if you can line up in 11 and 12 personnel and run power downhill. Nobody wants to see that, getting gas right up the A-gap. So it just depends on the coordinator and what he doesn't want to see. But, the majority of teams don't want to see tempo. They don't want to see guys executing at a fast rate, and they can't get their guys lined up.
Flipping that question around on you, Coach, what are the things you hate to see or prefer not to see as an offensive coordinator?
I say the great equalizer to any tempo offense or any offense, period. I mean, you don't want to see a great D-line. You don't want to see a whole bunch of war daddies up front that can get after it, and everybody else can just line up and be in coverage and just kind of stand still because those guys are just getting after you up front. So, I mean, that's the, equalizer to it all, a great D-line. I mean, I don't think any offensive coach, offensive coordinator wants to see, 3 or 4 guys that can line up and just get after you. So, that's what you don't want to see.
Coach, as you look at this game, certainly there's a lot to learn, and you can always keep learning, can always keep working at it. There's always more recruiting calls to make. How do you create a balance in your life to make sure that it's not consuming you?
Faith family football. say family football, you just got to try to, any football coach who tells you the majority of his day's not geared towards football, is telling you a lie. But, you got to really, spend some time for me, I got to spend some time in the Word. I got to spend some time, with the kids and the family and, just having those moments like my mom came to the spring game, taking her to eat, just taking some time to really, take a deep breath, whether that's an hour, 2 hours, just taking a moment away from it. And I love, having the guys around. That really helps the young guys, just teaching them, playing Scrabble with them or playing, going bowling, any of those things that just take your mind off it for a moment, because your mind's always on it. I was if I'm in a staff meeting or something, I'm writing a play or I'm thinking about a play, so anything that could just take your mind off it for a moment is really good.
What are your major concerns for the future of our game right now, and what ideas do you have that help solve some of those concerns?
But the biggest issue is, obviously we're losing a lot of the physicality in the game. The game has gotten less and less physical, and I think one of the things that helps that, being physical at a young age, actually helped a lot of the guys that I know that play professional and made it to that level. There's less. It's less thought process when you've been physical at a young age. You just understand that you're getting older and the guys get bigger. So I think you still need to have, I think that, the midget league programs and little league programs are still really huge. That we still have to have a huge emphasis and strong emphasis on those. And that's what I loved about, the USA camp. Guys still putting full pads on and getting a chance to, you got to have pads on. Football is a physical game. And I think that, trying to just completely do away with being physical and you expect somebody, it's like being a boxer. You never ever get hit in the face and then you go in a game or then you go into a fight and just get punched in the face. I mean, it would freak you out. So you need to make sure that, the kids are still being physical and you want to kind of gear your practice that way as well.
Coach, looking at that, and especially the younger levels, coaching is so important to them too, especially at a time like this when, we really are focused on safety and doing things the right way. What recommendations do you have for those guys who maybe have played the game at the high school level, maybe played at college, but now are given the task of teaching a very young group of players? What should they do to prepare themselves, and how should they approach the game and how they coach it?
They have to be progressive thinkers, and they have to be smart with the guys. I always tell people it's about getting your horses to the race. They got to be smart with the guys. It's not every day you hit. I'm not saying go out there and just hitting each other to death, but there's a time where they teach them the different tempos of practice. It's tag mode now, it's stud mode now, it's live now. They need to teach the kids those tempos. So then it's a seamless transition from the high school to college, and if they get a chance to make it professionally to the, so they need to have those different tempos of hitting. So, maybe you want to teach the guys good form tackling. Okay. So it's stud mode. All right. Every kid understands. All right. We're not taking them to the ground. We're not going to twist and turn them. We're not trying to hurt them. We're just going to get a good thud, Okay. It's tag. Now we're just going to run by and tag off on the guy's hip. Just different things like that. You can be smart and prevent things that way, and you can give guys good practice habits, and I think that will really help kids.
Coach, I really appreciate that advice. It's something to learn because a lot of us who grew up playing this game didn't necessarily encounter those things like thud. That might be a foreign term to a youth coach out there, because they were used to just hitting every single day. And I think it's so important that we understand that only part of the game is contact, that there's a lot of things we can drill, that contact isn't the focus of the drill all the time, that there's things we need as far as recognition, footwork, all those kinds of things that put us in a safe position to be able to use the contact.
No doubt. I think there's, until you're in a live full scrimmage mode, I mean, there's really nothing that you're doing that's, should be, just killing each other.
Well, Coach, we're going to jump into our 2-minute drill, go up tempo. Here's something you like to do. So some really quick questions and answers, and we'll start with this one. Schematically, what's the toughest defense to face?
3-4.
What's your favorite goal line play?
Call power right over the loudspeaker.
Turf or grass?
Grass.
What's your favorite backfield set?
Eye.
Day game or night game?
Night.
If you had to run your offense from one formation, what would it be?
Eye.
What's your favorite quote?
Too much is given, much is required.
Should the kickoff be eliminated?
No.
If you could pick one coach from the past to learn from, who would it be?
Gus Malzahn.
And from the present?
Mike Tomlin.
Good job on the 2-minute drill, Coach. Here's the final question. What's the one thing you would point to as giving your team, your offensive unit, the winning edge?
We're blessed to go against Coach Vince Brown and Coach Mike London every day with the great defense that they have.
Coach, how can our listeners connect with you?
On Twitter at Brennan Marion 4.
Coach, I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today and share some of your ideas, and certainly wish you the best of luck here in 2017.
All right, thanks, bud. Appreciate you having me on.
Thank you again for listening to the Coach and Coordinator podcast. If you're enjoying the podcast, head over to iTunes and hit 5-star for rate. If you have a minute, write a review. It really helps the podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Coach K. Grabowski, and follow all we're doing at coachingcoordinator.com.